Okay, we're going to get started. Please silence your cell phones as you stand up, and welcome Randy to be our Rotarian today.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to speak today during this past Rotary. Thank you for the work we're able to do, locally, country and nationally. Lord, we come to this time so important where we choose the leadership of our country and our local government as well. We ask you to give us guidance, not only with us, but also with the candidates. Do what's best for the country. Lord, we thank you for this food, prayers for us, we thank you for the hand of it. We ask you in Jesus' name, on for our sake. Join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the full weight test. First is the truth.
Second, they are all concerned.
Third,
Will the goodwill of their relationships will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you, Randy. As you sit down, don't forget the blue buckets and Alzheimer's research. Last week we had $21. Could I get a match for $21? Anybody? Let's see, visitors. Mary, want to introduce your visitors?
Yeah. I have two visitors here today. First, I have Lauren Smith. She works with me. She is our social media coordinator and also our intern coordinator. So she works directly with all the interns that come through our office. And then Rebecca Snyder is here today. It's a busy week for her because she has her stories going on every day this week.
Thank you. Do we have any prayer requests? Okay. All right, so as we close out October, we're going to do some birthdays. So Jennifer and Angie and Lynn Chandler, who's online, and Stephen Hauser, who's online. Want to come up? We'll sing happy birthday. Anybody I've missed?
September. Yeah, we were in September.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Am I missing anybody?
Did you say 1 year or what?
All right. I also have some attendance awards. Michael. For 12 years. Yeah. 14 years. Judy? 28 years. John. Okay. 2 years. Dr. Price. She's still here. Pete Farlow, 16 years. And Eric Massey, 5 years. All right. Just a reminder, next week is the Cafe Central presentation. Frank, you want to say something brief about the cards?
Yes, just real quick. Everybody remember we're reaching out to our own folks in our community as part of our service community project. I think we're finally there. Right before this meeting, I sent out an email to everybody. It's got a Word document attached to it. It has your list of names. So if you have something that looks like this on your desk, okay, these are the names. That's also in that email, on that Word document. So you can find the 4 to 5 names that you have that you'll send a mistaken of you note. Okay. So scheme of maneuver, if you will, kind of actions that you need to do are in that email. Very simple. If you're here, you'll get the cards that Dr. Price has on the way out the door for your 4 to 5 names. Okay.
I wanted to say that these are no cards that have envelopes, but they ran out of these, so they send me postcards. So with the same thing as the postcard. So, and you just have to tell me how many you need. How many?
And then what do we bring the cards back here?
Bring it back here if you're wanting to do a live personal face-to-face type thing. Just bring it back to next week. And if not, pick up. So if you're listening online there in the virtual world, pick up the cards from the College of Education and the Dean Suite. Just drop by anytime you want during normal business hours. Pick them up and then drop them back there at the Dean Suite. Everybody else, if you're here face-to-face, just bring it, pick them up, and then drop them back next week.
Right. You do all of it, go before whatever song.
I've reached out to 3 other retirement communities as well, and it's in that Word document. It's Dogwood Terrace. The Georgia War Veteran one was the largest.
What's the asterisk?
The asterisk is if they're male or female, or if they're a veteran. So you know when you're addressing it. There was, if you notice in some of the names, if some of you have opened it, it may say like F. Atkinson. And that's because the retirement community just didn't want to put their full names because of whatever reasons, okay? So just write whatever, Mr. F. Atkinson, Mrs. whatever. It's on the asterisk on that Word document I mailed out.
And if you missed your slip, they're up here. All right. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Keith, you want to talk about the
Yeah. Just want to mention about the Rotary raffle just a little bit. If you don't have your tickets, see me or Karen, and we will make sure that you get your tickets. It's in full swing. We're selling the Rotary raffle tickets. We need to go ahead and make sure that we get them sold quickly. We'll talk about when is the deadline. I don't remember when the official deadline is.
I believe we said like the second Thursday or right before Thanksgiving.
Right, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Thursday before Thanksgiving. So just remember, just like in years past, if you have the ticket after the deadline, it's your ticket. Okay? So you're responsible for it, whether you sell it or you pay for it. So if you turn it in by the deadline, then our committee, will distribute it to someone else, and someone else will sell it. But if you don't turn it in by the deadline, it's your ticket. You're responsible for either giving us the money or giving us the money. Or you could give us the money.
Each member at least responsible for purchase of 4 if they don't sell it.
Yeah, each member should be responsible for 4. I think we have given them out to everybody, or we've kind of put it out to where everybody has at least 4. And really and truly, we might have one person that we're trying to get another to, something like that. But anyway, yes, we will make sure that everybody has it. If you're looking for the prize list, the prize list is coming. Our committee you can say that we're a little behind on that, but anyway, we're still working on the prize list. But just remember, the prize list is going to be virtually the same thing as last year. Same prizes, same dates, and that kind of stuff. So, but I will remind everybody, they're very, 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 very simple to sell. Very simple to sell. All you have to do is just ask people. If you don't ask people, it's hard to sell. But if you ask people, I promise you'll be surprised. Oh, wow, I can sell it just like that. So, are there any questions on the Rotary raffle?
What's the first place prize?
The first place prize for which week? I'm just teasing. sorry. Basically, every week, so for 52 weeks, there's going to be a prize. Okay, so basically, you buy a ticket for $50, and you get that number for every week of the year, so you can win a prize every week. So, like the first week is, I don't remember, a generator maybe from Lowe's. The second week might be a gun from Baines, you know, and then there's a TV from World Hi-Fi. There's Chick-fil-A combos. So every week you could win a prize. So that $50 puts you in. Just to remind everybody that's new, if y'all don't know, every noon Friday we take the cash-free number. So if your number is that number, then you win that prize for that week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So but you get to keep that same number the whole week, the whole year. So technically you could win more than one time. And there are people that do win more than one time. So any other questions? Remember the deadline.
Thank you, Pete. Any other announcements?
I don't know if anybody was able to make it out to the Baldwin High School Baldwin Rose program yesterday. But I went, because I went the first time, and I really was curious to see how far along it had come, and it's awesome. So I encourage you, you know, if you're out and about, just pop in. They're throwing all kinds of stuff, and I didn't realize that they're actually selling to the public on their market day. So you can stay tuned to their Facebook page, the Baldwin Schools is a good. Help me out.
The school nutrition website.
Right, and the Facebook
website. Okay.
But yeah, they're selling it to the cafeterias at low price. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. Y'all can take it really good.
I just want to add that Aubrey Lane purchased all of the letters. So obviously they thought it was quality. They decided to purchase from us. I think it's great, and you can see the investment that the Rotary Club made in the garden. That vision has become a reality. So working on it, but it looks great.
Thank you, Dr. Briggs. All right, Mary, want to introduce the guest?
Okay, so maybe I'm still just a kid at heart, and I'm really excited about this week's program because we are having local ghost stories. It turns out it's a small world because I reached out to Jackie Turner to talk to us this week. She's the Associate Dean of Central Georgia Tech. She actually taught me when I was younger, so she's part of the reason I'm here today. So that's cool. So Jackie, if you want to come on up. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How are you all today? I'm going to tell you some stories that some of you may be familiar with, and maybe new stories to some of you. But I hope you enjoy them because, like Aaron said, it's that time of year that we should all embrace our ghosts. Milledgeville was established in 1803 and 1804. It was designated as a capital, and it was named in honor of John Milledge, who was a governor. The governor's mansion is not built on the original site, and a lot of people don't realize that the governor did not immediately move into that home. The original site is down at the end of Washington Street, down where Georgia College's Centennial Center is located today. For the first 2 years that the governor was here in Milledgeville, he actually lived in a home that became the childhood home of Flannery O'Connor. The governor's mansion was completed in 1839. It has had many uses. It has had 8 governors who called it home. It was also a boarding house. It has belonged to Georgia Military College as well as Georgia College. It was Georgia College's first dormitory, and their president lived there for a period of time on the second floor in an apartment. There was also a cook that was associated with the governor's mansion. Her name was Molly. They say that all of these years, Molly has never left the governor's mansion. So as you make your tour around the home, just smell them. See if you can smell blueberry muffins being cooked, or pork or black-eyed peas. Those were her specialties. And from time to time, you can smell those. On one occasion, there was a smell of burnt potatoes that was so prominent throughout the home, they actually called the fire department. After searching high and low, they could not find the source of the smell. So I guess we can just say that maybe Molly had a bad day that day and burned the potatoes. Now, she may have other friends that live there with her, because there have been stories of linens being thrown as well as cigar smoke. So drop by one day toward the home and see if you find Molly. The Walker Scott Tate House is located at 201 North Jefferson. It is known to be the most haunted house in Milledgeville. It was built around 1828, but the hauntings did not begin until after Sam Walter purchased the home. That was in 1870. Sam lived there with his third wife, Molly, her niece, Alice, and on occasion, a son by his first wife, who was Joe. Joe attended school at Mercer University in Macon. In 1873, a meningitis outbreak happened, and they sent all of the students home. Well, Joe was one of those students that came back home to Milledgeville. Days after he came back home, he told his father he didn't feel well. His father told him he wasn't ill. He told him there was nothing wrong with him, to go back to work. Sam was a mean man. He was known as the meanest man in Milledgeville. He had a horrible demeanor. It's said that he contributed to the death of all 4 of his wives. And you see, being sick or ill, it was a character flaw. It was a weakness. Well, about 3 days after Joe reported being sick, he was standing at the top of the stairs of that home, and he tumbled to his death. The saddest part about the story is that Joe died on Monday, and on Wednesday, meningitis took Alice, the 12-year-old niece, and on Friday, Molly passed away. Now, Joe is the ghost that most people hear often. They say that all times during the day and night, you can hear him tumbling down the stairs to his death. There are also footsteps of a man that walk the halls, and most speculate that it is most likely Sam. And we can only wonder if he feels any remorse from all of the evil that he shared in the world when he was here. If you make your way on around Milledgeville, you'll find Sanford Hall. Sanford Hall is the home of Georgia College students. It's a dormitory. They also have a ghost. In 1952, Betty Jean Cook, known as Cookie, took her life on the 3rd floor. Some speculate it might have been murder. The story goes that she was a self-harmer. She liked to cut herself. So she took a mattress to the 3rd floor of Sanford home, which was accessible but not used at that time. There was an event at Georgia College in April of 1952, and she went missing. Some of her friends went looking for her. They found her on that 3rd floor. It was a gruesome sight. There was blood everywhere. She had cut her wrist, she had cut her elbow, and she had cut her throat. Her friends called emergency services. They came, they removed her from the building, and on her way out, they heard her say, "Please don't let me die." But it was too late. She died on the operating table. They may have carried Cookie from the Sanford home, but she never really left. She's still there. From occasions, they hear a woman singing. They hear footsteps. And of course, respectful ghosts open and close doors. So there's some of that going on. Now, one of the residents there at Sanford Hall bought some ghost hunting equipment. They took an EMF detector. They walked around the building and asked questions. They really didn't get a whole lot until she stepped inside of one of the closets, and the point was served. On a separate occasion, she and some of her friends gained access to the third floor. They walked around the third floor, not getting much activity, until they walked into the room where Cookie supposedly killed herself. When they asked, "Do you regret killing yourself?" the EMS detector went off. Some still speculate today if she did commit suicide, because one of the coroners reviewed her death report and said that he really couldn't rule out murder, because if she had slit her wrist, she would have been too weak to cut her throat. And if she had cut her throat, that she would have bled out too quickly to cut her wrist. So we can only wonder whether or not she did kill herself. If you continue down the road, you'll find Memory Hill Cemetery. The history of Memory Hill was it was actually designed as the home for churches and academies in Milledgeville. In 1809, the Methodist Church built a church on the lot. It was the only church that actually built, because most thought that it was too far out of town and that no one would attend church, but the other churches had built up on the Statehouse Square, which is where GMC is. In 1810, the Methodists created a graveyard. And shortly after, they also moved back to town. When they did so, the cemetery was deeded to the city and became known as the city cemetery. They also increased it from about 20 acres to about a 40-acre plot. In 1945, they changed the name to Memory Hill. There are approximately 7,700 identified graves, and there are about 1,200 that have no identification at all. There are lots of famous residents there. Dixie K. Good. She was known as a very dangerous and odd person in her life. She was very eccentric. They say she put a curse on her own grave. She was a witch. If you stand between her and the sunlight, she'll put a curse on you. Because witches tend to feed off the sunlight. You'll also find William Fish. He hangs out around his tomb and sometimes inside the family vault. They say if you stop by and knock on the door and ask Mr. Fish what he's doing, he'll answer. It's also the resting place for Flannery O'Connor, for Carl Vincent, and a lot of people don't know that a man named J.H. Nichols is found there. Have any of you ever been to Helen, Georgia? You know where Anna Ruby Falls is located? He is Anna Ruby's father. He actually left Milledgeville and moved to the Helen area, purchased some property, was out riding one day when he discovered the falls. He named it after his daughter. Now, Anna Ruby is buried in Macon. We also have Bill Miner. Bill Miner was the politest train robber. He escaped prison many times. He wound up here in Milledgeville. He escaped from the prison here in Milledgeville, and due to that, he died. The story about Bill is he was not a very good train robber, but he was very good at escaping. He even escaped his own tombstone for a period of time. They buried him in one place and placed his tombstone in another. His tombstone and he finally caught up with one another, but his death and burial dates are incorrect. So he still got away with a little bit, even in death. You can also find Daniel Lyman there. Daniel was from Rhode Island. He made his way to Milledgeville one day to visit his sweetheart. When he got here, she had married another. He was so heartbroken that he rode his horse into the cemetery. He found the biggest tree he could find. He threw that rope across that limb, created a noose, stood up on the horse, placed it around his neck, and picked the horse out. In doing so, he died. When he was discovered, they buried him underneath the tree in which he hanged himself. And while you're around there too, look for Nick and Bruno Bonner. They're the family dogs of the Bonner family. But whatever you do not find yourself in the cemetery at the stroke of midnight on Halloween. And if you do not touch the wrought iron fence that goes around the property of Mr. Taylor. You see, the fence has 84 imps inside of it because Mr. Taylor did not like the bad feelings and vibes he got from Memory Hill. So he had a fence designed with those 84 imps. They all face outward to protect him from the evil that's in the cemetery. But, stroke of midnight of Halloween, the imps come to life. They scream and screech. It's supposed to be so loud that screech owls come from miles away to see what commotion they do. But now if you touch the fence, you're going to release the imps into the world. So whatever you do, don't touch the fence. When you leave Memory Hill, you will walk out of Liberty Street. And on the corner of Liberty and Washington Street, you're going to find the homestead. The homestead was built in 1818 by Peter Williams. They were a family that moved here from Wales. And as they were packing their family belongings, they packed one thing that they didn't really count on. They packed a banshee. They brought her with them from Wales. She appeared as a lady in a long, flowing gray dress. Now, the worrisome thing about the banshee is that every time that she showed up, 3 days later, a family member would die. Well, as luck goes for the Williams family, things kind of took a turn for the better because one of their friends saw the banshee come down the front steps of the home one day, take a left, walk past the Baptist church and into the gates of Memory Hill. She's never been seen again. But you might find her on your strolls around Memory Hill. So the house was ghost-proof, but not for long. You see, Sue soon took over the home. It was a very social home. It was where lots of parties and lots of popular and important people in Milledgeville went. They continued to party. But in 1890, her husband, Jack, became ill. Jack had typhoid fever. He was delirious. He was in his upstairs bedroom, where they restrained him to the bed. He broke those restraints one night and fell from one of those upstairs windows. When he did, he hit a rock in the garden and killed himself. They say that you can see Jack floating around outside of the window that he fell from. Jack doesn't like to stay outside. He also comes inside the house. They say if you sleep in his room at night, leave the door open. At some point during the night, he's going to slam that door shut. Sue, his wife, lost her love. She couldn't sleep. She was an insomniac. So she would walk around the grounds. They had a beautiful garden. After her death, they say that Sue still walks that garden. You can see her in a white flowing gown. But just like Jack, Sue doesn't like to stay outside. Sue will go inside the house. She's fascinated with modern day plumbing, they say. She flushes toilets. She turns on and off faucets. She turns on and off lights. And again, all self-respecting ghosts have to open and close doors. In 1969, a gentleman bought the home. He moved in, started doing some renovation. He was asleep one night upstairs. Something woke him in the middle of the night. It's a commotion downstairs. So he made his way to the top of the stairs, and when he got there, there was a grand party going on. He stood there pondering, should he go down the stairs or just turn around and go back to bed? And about that time, a lady standing downstairs looked up and said, "Darling, we're so glad you're here. The celebration can now begin." So he walked downstairs to join the party. They partied all night. There were people coming and going. There were music playing. and in the corner of the room, he spotted a lady in gray. Shortly after that, he woke, and he was laying in his pajamas on the couch in the library. He speculated for years, did he dream the party, or did he actually join the party? Well, during that party, people were coming and going up the beautiful wooden steps to that home. He had no idea that they were wooden, because when he purchased the home, they were nice brick steps. Years later, he found a picture of the home in its original glory, and those wooden steps were in the photo. Last but not final, we have lots of hauntings here in Milledgeville. You will find Lockery Hall. In 1852, it was built by David Reese Tucker. It was at that time known as Rose Hall because of the beautiful roses, the Cherokee roses that grew on the banks of the house. Today, there's a young ghost that tends to walk the ground. Everyone believes that it's possibly Emma. She was the daughter of Mr. Tucker. There are also other sounds and sights and events that happen. The large pocket doors are known to slam closed. On occasion, there has been ashtrays thrown across the room, as well as seeing other ghostly figures. Now, these are only a couple of our wonderful ghost stories here in Milledgeville. And I hope you all have a happy Halloween and go in search of other ghosts.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any other announcements?
Remember to take up your card.
Okay. If you need your sources, are up here. All right, that ends the meeting.